Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It is a fantastic day for Marvel Rivals. We've officially entered the game's second season. There's a brand new map to explore, a very jiggly new tank joining the roster.
Smash.
But today, out of the 37 heroes in this game, 25 of them got reworked in this update. So we're gonna go over all of the buffs and the nerfs that we got in Season 2. Make sure you like the video, consider subscribing if you're new, and here we go!
Again!
Alright guys, let's get right into the hero changes, starting with the Vanguards. Groot and Venom are still the same, which is crazy considering how dominant Groot is in the meta right now, but leading the charge of tank changes, we've got the geriatric bald eagle himself, Captain America, who's getting a disappointing nerf. Bro said, I can do this all day, and the dev said, that's way too long. His base health is getting reduced down to 650, and the health of his shield is dropping from 400 to 350. No damage adjustments here, but Cap just survives forever, so this aims to make him a little bit less resilient. Next is Doctor Strange, who is also getting nerfed. The primary attack is getting a damage nerf per projectile from 18 down to 16, and the Maelstrom of Madness ability is getting a slight damage reduction too, from 1.3 conversion ratio to 1.2. As far as utility is concerned, I think Strange will still be very good. He still has the portal, the shield isn't getting touched, he's still a solid Vanguard, he's just not going to be hitting as hard anymore, especially after losing the Hulk team-up. On that note, Hulk is getting a major buff. I know Captain Coach is loving life right now. Hulk is getting a 12% movement speed buff and reduced cooldown time for his shield ability from 12 seconds down to 10 seconds, and the charge on his leap is building up faster. To get a minimum charge, it now only takes half a second instead of the 0.7 seconds it was at before. This is a great day for Hulk fans. For Magneto fans, not so much. Mag just gets a little nerf to his ultimate, although with the loss of his Wanda team-up, he's in a very different place than he was in Season 1. His ult just takes a little bit more charge-up time now, but outside of that, he's basically the same. Losing Metallic Chaos is a huge nerf in general, though, and hopefully the new team-up with Emma makes up for it. Moving on to Penny Parker. She's getting one of the best buffs I could ask for. Her primary attack now has a chance to crit, and the movement cost while firing it is being cut in half. So she's going to be hitting harder and will be harder to hit, especially while she's dancing on her webs. On top of all that, she gets a massive health pool buff from 650 up to 750. She's going to be moving around at 950 health when those overshields are maxed out. Now that's a tank. Moving on to a legendary John Carpenter movie, The Thing just gets a small nerf to his damage reduction from Embattled Leap. The reduction that applies both to himself and a teammate is just dropping from 30% to 25%, so not a huge nerf at all. I think Thing is still going to be a very relevant meta pick, especially when teamed up with Sue. Lastly, for the Vanguards, we have Thor, who is getting a massive buff, with his base health going up to 700 and his movement speed increasing by 12%, just like Hulk. All in all, this is a really good update for the Vanguard class. We're getting a new one with Emma, and a lot of these changes are buffing the role in general. I think NetEase got the memo that we have a very serious Vanguard shortage problem in the game. Everyone either hardlocks DPS or healer, so hopefully we get more tank players this season. That's all the tank changes. Moving on to the duelists. There are a lot of changes to DPS here, and we're going to start with Black Widow. She isn't getting any value tweaks. Instead, she's just getting the ability to fire her primary weapon right after the second kick of Edge Dancer and right after launching her ultimate. There was a very noticeable firing delay after using those abilities, so this should make her just a little bit smoother. Hawkeye is next, and he's getting a respectable buff this season. Similar to Penny, he gets a movement buff while charging his bow. The slow effect was at 30% before, but now it's only 20%. Both instances of his hypersonic arrow are getting a small damage buff from 50 to 55, so in total, the ability is just hitting for 10 additional damage, and his ultimate is actually getting a huge buff with a massive decrease to the energy cost and an increase to the bow's draw speed. Hawkeye players are eating pretty good with this update. After that, we have Hela, who is getting a slight buff to her offensive capabilities. Her teleportation ability, where she turns into a crow, is getting a cooldown increase from 12 seconds to 15 seconds, so she won't be able to get away from danger as often. But her stun is getting a cooldown reduction down to 10 seconds, so that kind of balances that. On top of that, the AoE burst damage from her right click is also getting a buff, from 30 to 35. Not a huge change, but the adjustments in those defensive abilities makes it pretty interesting. I'm wondering how she'll stack up now. Human Torch, on the whole, is getting a buff. The launch timing of his primary attack is getting improved, with only a half-second delay between shots now, where it used to be 0.6 seconds, so not a huge change, but still significant. The big change is to his Flaming Meteor ability, where he crashes into the ground. It's getting a cooldown increase up to 15 seconds, but when he does that ability, Human Torch now gets a bonus 75 health, which will start to drop off after 3 seconds. And I think this is a great idea, just because after he slams into the ground, he's usually pretty open to getting countered, so that extra health is a nice little cushion for the pushing. Jarvis, jerk it a little, because Iron Man is getting a crazy buff, guys. They're reducing the hitbox on him, which is blowing my mind, but okay. He's also getting a bonus 100 health when he activates Gamma Overdrive while teamed up with Hulk, which starts to fall off after 5 seconds. So he's harder to hit than he already was, and he's tankier when he uses his strongest ability. Okay. You probably could have guessed it, Iron Fist is next. After all, these are all in alphabetical. The bonus health that he gets from his ability is getting a small nerf. Instead of 150 bonus health, it only gives him 100, but instead of 25 health fall off per second, it's now only 15, so he keeps a little more for longer. The most interesting tweak here is to the damage for his primary. The devs really want him to be more effective against tanks specifically, so they're dropping the fixed damage of each hit from 10 to 9, but the percentage damage is going up to 2.1% of the target's maximum health. Kinda complicated, but basically the tankier the target, the more damage Iron Fist will actually do. This definitely puts him in the same class as Wolverine, as sort of these anti-tank DPS characters. His Kunlun kick cooldown is also going down to 10 seconds from 12, so he's going to be kicking a lot more often, laughing all the way down to cheaper Town Hall. The next 3 characters on this list got a lot of changes, so this section is going to take up some time. Next up is Mr. Fantastic, and he's got a bunch of buffs. First and foremost, his health pool is going up to 375, making him one of the tankiest duelists just by default. And his primary attack damage is going up to 65 per hit in base form and 80 per hit in his inflated form. The move where he grabs targets is also now applying a 35% slowing effect on them, and the cooldown is getting reduced to 8 seconds, so he can use it a lot more often. The only nerf to speak of is to his passive, where he gains a little bit less elasticity per hit. It used to be 30, now it's 20, so it's going to take a few more hits to get inflated, and when that happens, the bonus health he gets is going down to just 400. It used to be 450, so it's not a huge nerf at all. There's also a new feature on his ultimate where he gets that same 400 bonus health when he activates it, so all in all, these are some crazy buffs for Mr. Fantastic. Moon Knight 2 is getting a massive buff in this update, especially to his ultimate, which is wild because they buffed it last time. So Moon Knight's primary attack now shoots out faster. It's matching Storm's primary at 150 meters per second. The right click now gives him 25 bonus health for every enemy that it hits, up to a maximum of 100, and since it bounces between targets, you could get all 100 in a single shot. That bonus health starts falling off at a rate of 20 per second when it stops going up. But one of the best changes is to his grapple, where the delay before he starts getting pulled up is significantly reduced. It was at 0.4 seconds before, now they're reducing it to 0.15, so grappling is so much faster. His ultimate, as stated, is also getting a huge buff, extending its duration up to 4.5 seconds and increasing the number of talons it spits out to 18, and they fall a little bit faster. This is insane. There is a new damage fall-off mechanic though, where it starts at 1.5 meters from the center of the ult, and it reaches a maximum of 70% reduction at 5 meters. So the closer the target is to the center, the more damage it's going to do, but the additional talons should catch those players that are on the edge. Great Moon Knight changes here. Next up, we have Wanda, and I actually learned something new about her primary attack here. So kind of like Iron Fist, it used to do percentage damage based on the target's max health. So the more health the target has, the more damage per second you're actually doing. Well, they're removing that altogether. Instead, the primary is just getting a boost to the damage rate, which is now a fixed 80 per second. The right click is also getting a damage boost from 35 to 40 in both the direct hit and the area of effect damage, but she is getting a nerf to the defensive ability. Mystic Projection's cooldown is going up to 10 seconds, and the phased state only lasts a second and a half now instead of the 2 seconds it was before. So she's hitting harder, but the survivability is definitely going down. The best change, though, is probably to her ultimate, where the slowing effect that it puts on her won't begin for a full second and a half after launching it. The slow effect will ramp up linearly now instead of just happening right at the beginning, which should make the ult just a little bit better. After that, we have Star-Lord, who is simply too powerful. They're nerfing him here. That spinning blaster barrage ability is getting a small damage nerf to 75 per second. It used to be at 80, so not that big of a nerf, but there's a new damage fall-off mechanic of up to 80% when you're 8 meters away from the ability. The patch notes also say that his ultimate charge is going to take a little bit longer, but they didn't provide numbers, so we'll just have to test that one for ourselves. After Star-Lord, we've got Bucky Barnes, who is getting a disappointing nerf, but he is insanely broken, so it's to be expected. The Bionic Hook cooldown is going way up, from 8 seconds to 12 seconds, which is really significant, especially since it's the ability you need to get Lord on the guy, but I digress. They're also reducing the base damage of his ultimate from 100 to 80, but the culling threshold is now at 15% of maximum health instead of 20%, which should reduce the margin of error. I still think Bucky is going to be great after this, even after losing the Rocket team-up. He's easily one of the best DPS characters in the game. But lastly, for DPS, we have Wolverine, and the big change here is just how much rage he builds up under different circumstances. So his primary attack now gives him more rage, from 7 up to 10, which is actually pretty big, while the rage gained while he's in Berserk state is going down from 7 to 5. He also gets less rage from Feral Leap and his right-click ability, but he gets more rage when he takes damage now, from 3 to 5. So all in all, you get more rage from taking damage and from the primary, but less rage from the abilities, is how I'm thinking about it. There's also a reduction in the stun time after getting hit by Wolverine's ult, so instead of a full 1 second of stun, it only lasts 0.75 seconds, which is great news for the tanks. That's all for the DPS characters. Next, we've got the strategists, and 6 of them got changes in this update. First up is Adam Warlock, and it is about time Soul Bond got a nerf. The cooldown is going up from 30 seconds to 40 seconds, so that should help with teams feeling invincible when they have an Adam on support. This character is really slept on right now, and I think it's actually going to get worse after the nerf. However, his ultimate now does better healing in most cases. Before this update, when it resurrected teammates, they only had a fixed 100 health, but now it reses them with a 30% restoration of maximum health. So some duelists and strategists will actually come back with less health than before, but tanks will always come back with more. Just another example of why this update is all about tanks. This is really cool. Next up is Cloak and Dagger, and just like with Wanda, I actually learned something new here. So with this update, Cloak and Dagger is only getting one change, and that's to the ultimate. The duration of the first 3 healing zones that the ult creates will no longer be calculated separately. Instead, they will now remain active until the duration of the 4th and final healing zone is over, at which point all 4 zones will disappear at the same time. Not gonna lie, I thought this is exactly how it was already, but I guess not. On the whole, this is just a buff for Cloak and Dagger. I like it. Invisible Woman is next, and she gets just a small nerf. The health of the shield that she gives to teammates is just going down from 300 to 250, nothing crazy here. Loki also is getting a small adjustment, even though it's going to have a big impact. That AoE healing ability, Regeneration Domain, is getting a cooldown increase up to 30 seconds. It's just way too good, so they had to nerf it somehow. After Loki, we have Mantis, who is getting a pretty interesting change. Just a small nerf to her base health, which is now 250, but the effects of her healing and damage increase for her teammates can now be stacked, and they last up to 16 seconds. The Natural Anger ability that gives herself a damage boost will not stack though, so that's still the same, but she's gonna have some enhanced healing with this stacking now, so this is a pretty nice change. The last hero who is getting some tweaks is Rocket Raccoon, and he's just way too good right now, so he's getting nerfs across the board. The healing spheres he shoots out will now heal less damage. It used to be 70 per second, now it's 50, but they're now going to grant an initial 55 health to your teammates on contact. The projectile speed is also increasing significantly, by almost double. His jetpack is getting an increased cooldown, up to 10 seconds, so that's a nerf, and the distance traveled is going down, so he'll be a little bit less mobile. And the ultimate's damage boost is dropping from 40% to 25%. Lots of nerfs for Rocket, but his ultimate gets a pretty cool new feature where it provides an additional 100 bonus health per second, up to a cap of 150, which actually makes his ult a little bit more defensive. 100 extra health per second is what Captain America gets during his ultimate, so I'm actually pretty excited to see what this can do for an entire team. Also worth mentioning is the ult charge is going up by just a bit. On paper, it sounds like the ultimate is no longer real firepower and more like real healing. This actually sounds kind of cool. But guys, with that, that is all the hero buffs and nerfs that we got in this Season 2 update. The big winners here are all the tanks. Despite some nerfs to Cap and Strange, everyone else basically got a buff here. Emma Frost makes the tanks more appealing, characters like Penny got really good in this update, and we've also got a lot of great DPS and healing balance changes. This really is a fantastic update, and as a tank main, I appreciate it deeply. But guys, with that, that is the video. I appreciate you tuning in and checking it out. If you enjoyed my coverage, be sure to leave a like, and if you're new and you want to stay in the loop with more Marvel Rivals content, I hope you consider subscribing and getting notified. Don't forget to click that bell icon. But with that, that's all from me. This has been Star. Keep shining, baby.